Flame on! How's everybody doing tonight? And welcome back to Comics Blaze. Here, my co-host Nick Lenz. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, technical difficulties tonight, so this is going to be a closed camera stream. But as we're all waiting now, this is kind of going to be a two for one. One story more infamous than the other. Um,
Yes.
one one is Armageddon 2001, and the other is Zero Hour. They kind of bleed into each other. One's kind of a precursor for the other.
hmm
And which do you want to go for? Do you want to
Um,
establish
um,
setup, or you want to go right into it?
yeah, go right into it. So Armageddon '01 was basically this. So they had this character named Wave Rider come from the future to find out. They warned the superheroes about this guy called Monarch, and he was a dictator. He ruled the world, and the only thing they knew about this guy, he was a former superhero. So the whole thing with him is they go through all these comic books to find out who Monarch is. And there's two bookend one shots. Um, so we have basically this is basically put into the annuals. We have Superman number 3, Batman annual 15, just like America. Now America, America. I've asked JMTS about this name change. He had no idea of why the name change would happen in the first place. Um, and number 5, Action number 3, Flash Annual Volume 2 number 4, Hawk World and number 2, Titans New Titans number 7, Detective Comics number 4, Avengers number 3, Legion number 2, Hawk and Dove Annual number 2, which was the last annual of the book. We'll get to in a minute. The just the Europe Annual and the finale. Now each of these one shots have these probable futures. So the thing with some of these annuals are some of basically continue for quite some time. Like for Superman, his continued for another there was another 10 annuals released for him. A lot of these little ones basically last for a good period of time. Like for Superman, this was from a second volume that started back in 1987, and this will last for another 9 annuals before they cease publication. They did bring this back around the mid 2000s. Just like America, well, Batman, he would have uh, approximately
So sorry, Nick, you went out for a second. Can you
after
backtrack just a
this.
few?
Yeah. So Superman, this was for the second volume for Superman that started back in '87, the annuals, not from the annuals from the original numbering. So basically, some of these lasted for another 9 or a few more annuals. Just like America had about 2 more annuals after this. Flash a few more. Hawk World, this was the final annual. New Titans, I think they had 2 or 3 more. Hawk and Dove, this was the last one. Just like Europe had one more. Um, Basically, it's like possible futures of where these characters could go. And then in the Europe annual, he goes to Captain Atom to tease, oh, he could possibly be Monarch. There was tons of teases for this. And then the ending got leaked, which for the longest time I did not know what the reason was. I think for a lot of people didn't know. And then Comic Pop found about it, says, oh, DC themselves leaked to the comic stores saying, oh yeah, Captain America's Monarch. I'm guessing somebody else DC must have panicked, so they pivot, a very bad pivot, to reveal Rafter Monarch, who came from the present, and he killed Hawk. And then it turned out that Monarch, this one was Hawk, which made no frickin' sense at all, and it killed the Hawk and Dove title. Oh boy.
Because I remember briefly hearing about this. I believe my first experience of the storyline my was actually a what was his name, Linkara review, to where he was dumbfounded by the story until till similar to where, yeah, because I could see the original ending where this was gonna be Captain Atom, where Captain Atom is kind of a jobber, if not government stooge in most storylines. So a storyline where Captain Atom just went snapped and went nuts, I could see it.
So that happened just prior to Zero Hour, but that happened in between Armageddon 01 and Zero Hour.
Yeah, Emerald Twilight's kind of in between.
Yes, we'll get that in just a minute. Armageddon 1, there is a trade that collects this. There is a couple follow ups to this one. There's Alien Agenda, which followed right after this Armageddon Inferno. And so the people behind this book, two people who helped create this book, which are Archie Goodwin and Danny O'Neill, both have sadly since passed away. Archie Goodwin passed away 7 years after the story wrapped up, and Danny O'Neill passed away in 2018. Dan Jurgens is the only one still alive who worked on the story, well, the main story itself. Wade Rider, he would still be around DC Comics. The kind of explanation is that he's a he's like a version of Booster Gold. That's the
Mm.
whole thing related to Wave Rider. At one point, Boost became Wave Rider. At some point, I think it was during the Convergence story that they had to become Wave Rider for some weird reason. Wave Rider after Armageddon 1, he would occasionally make appearances, but it's like once his story wrapped up, he had zero role after this. This story was, I think, was revisited in the Booster Gold ongoing of the mid 2000s. They did briefly revisit the story. And was there any depth in the story? Not really, no. And then pretty much right after the story, I think it was just a couple years later, there was the the, the event known as the death of Superman, where in the third in Green Lantern 46, Gerald Jones 46 was sadly his penultimate issue, and the reason why is because with Monarch to blow up Coast City. And you're like, why in the world would he blow up Coast City? The reason, his wife, his late wife, was from Coast City. His backstory is that he basically is he's part of this failed space shuttle called Excalibur, and they were essentially put a low rank Fantastic Four ripoff. And he was kind of supposed to be like their version of Mr. Fantastic in terms of smarts. And the reason why he's Cyborg Superman, you gotta re-rain the Superman for that. So then right after this, after the next issue where we had Green Lantern team up with Green Arrow one more time, this was Hal Jordan. Now, the reason why they actually had the shakeup in the Green Lantern title was because the story I've heard was that the book wasn't selling very well at this point. Despite the fact the book was actually really good in the Gerald Jones form. I wasn't reading at the time, but I read it years later. I'm like, wow, this book was actually really good. And DC basically, the comment someone found about this, like, oh, they thought Hal Jordan was boring. So let's freshen up the story by having Hal Jordan go freaking nuts after Destruction Coast City. By the way, this story, Emerald Twilight, basically kicked off Ron Mart's run, which did become much better after this. So in the opening issue, they debuted Kyle Rayner. Hal Jordan goes freaking nuts, kills pretty much the entire Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians, except for Ganthet. He even killed Kilowog in the story, and Sinestro. He killed practically everybody. It went by really quick. 3 issues, done, becomes Parallax. And if anybody reads this one, you're probably like, why does Hal Jordan have gray in his hair?
And before you factor the Jeff Johns retcon, we got to go by the original explanation because the Jeff Johns retcon doesn't come into play until years later. Basically, it was supposed to, this was around the time where comics were aging relatively in real time. So at least if you go by the original explanation, Hal was just getting older, and the yellow impurity was corrupting him. Now Jeff Johns goes into more detail with that concept, but that's a topic for a different stream.
Yeah. So he goes nuts. and becomes Parallax. And at the end of the story, Gantha shows up back on Earth, gives Kyrie his ring, and Kyrie begins a very good run for Green Lantern. Uh, his run, I read it, I reviewed it on my YouTube channel. He didn't have a bad issue. There was not a single bad issue. He took over 51. He was Green Lantern up into the final issue. And then, of course, basically, then the Jeff Johns stuff came in. Retcon. Oh, it was actually the Parallax Fear Bug that what powers Sinestro Corps. That's what turned Hal Jordan evil. That was like a decade year. That was Jeff Johns' retcon. But at the time, people were like, oh,
Jeff Johns nostalgic for the Silver Age, and this is a cop out.
yeah. So then Hal Jordan becomes Parallax. Now he does play a role in Zero Hour. He does not show up until like halfway through the miniseries.
Now, if you're misconfusing this for how Parallax does not sacrifice himself in the story. That's a separate story where Hal sacrifices himself and becomes the Spectre. That's a separate story that takes place after
I
this.
think it happens in the finale of this. He does in fact die.
Wait. Then what story am I thinking of? It was
He becomes a Spectre in the Day of Judgment story.
okay. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, thank you.
So basically, if you read Zero Hour and you read the books, like, wait, why is number going backwards? Like, why is issue 1 the ending? The reason is because the issues were done
Backwards.
like this on purpose. Because it's counting down. It starts issue 4, ends with issue 0. Though this to resolve in some retcons, we'll get to that later. But during the course of the story, half the JSA get killed in the story. They kill off the original Iron Man. They killed off, I think it was like, they killed off him, Alfred, the original Adam. No, they didn't kill Wesley Dodds. He died after this. I think who else killed off in the story.
Not the Living Lightning, the one who donned the magic pen. What was his name? Johnny something.
Johnny Thunder.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So they killed off half the team here, and though Iron Man did come back in the Jeff Johns run, basically due to time travel shenanigans, and he had his place taken by the android Iron Man from the future, who did briefly got his own ongoing series a few years after this. He took his place, and of course his son Rick Tyler became new Iron Man, and of course, basically prior to the Flash reboot, him and Jesse Quick got married, and she got pregnant prior to the Flash relaunch. Currently, they're still technically married. There's no mention what happened to the child. No mention at all in the Jeff Lemire JSO, because they do reference the fact that they were separated. I know if the child died, it's not very clear.
I don't think they officially confirmed one way or the other.
Yeah, because in pre-Flashpoint, she was definitely pregnant, and she was losing her powers because she was pregnant.
Because she had to stop using the speed equation on a regular basis. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, Zero Hour is chronologically is the second Crisis event in publication, but Zero Hour gets very trippy. But to answer your question, Cameron, this is a very good run, and the two runs, Emerald Twilight kind of acts as an interlude between the two runs, but a lot of its elements get blurred together by new fans because all of it compounds around the same time.
Yeah, and this whole crossover took place in the period of a month.
Like, seriously, this was like a very short event.
4 issues, but it was released over the course of a month. Now, the whole book was written, drawn by Dan Jurgens. He did this whole thing. And there was like tie-ins. Some of these tie-ins were so bizarre. Like, there was a Shadow of Bat tie-in that had like 10 different Batmen.
Oh, I remember that.
No, this is not like what Scott Snyder. This was completely different. In Detective Comics, they bring old version of Barbara Gordon, was still Batgirl. There was one that brought in all these alternate Alfreds. I don't remember what Superman's did, but Batman had the more weird ones. Oh, I think Robin, his tie-in was
getting time displaced and interacting with it was either Grayson or Jason Todd.
I think it was Dick Grayson. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, then we had all the Zero issues, which all of them pretty much tell like new origin stories for a lot of these characters. One that did not was Aquaman. That did not tell a new origin story. Do you want to know what happened in Aquaman Zero in this book?
What happened?
This is the issue where Aquaman gets the hook for a hand.
Oh, right before the Peter David run, arguably the best run of the
Oh,
character. And
this is during Peter David run. Peter David was the one who did this.
okay.
Yeah. So the explanation is that because this happened very early in the run, apparently there was this villain who put Aquaman's hand into a tank of piranhas and it ate the hand to be a freaking bones. So then Aquaman proceeded to chop the hand off, and whenever he tried to make love to the woman, it hurt her. He had to look for a long time until I think like the early 2000s where he switched to a water hand. And then with the current continuity, his hand's back, and there's no mention of him having a hook for a hand, except for except that version did pop up for KO.
Mm.
But pretty much everybody got new backstories. Well, some anyways, Batman's pretty much mostly intact. They did for Batman, the major recon for him was that year 2 and year 3 were deemed non-canon. The story, no, it wasn't Black Manta. It was some random villain who popped up in the book. We only appeared for
There is
that
one feat Black Manta is infamous for, but it wasn't his hand. It was a separate story.
Oh yeah, that was Death of Prince. That was a good story, but oh my gosh.
I
I
mean,
mean, Black,
especially
Black Manta's awesome fun, but good gosh, who thought big idea for him to do that?
no, seriously, this was when the Comics Code Authority was still active. I'm surprised the creative team got away with it.
Yeah.
Like, see, I honestly think if you send me a pitch or a manuscript of how Death of the Prince was going to end, like, no, they're not going to do this. I mean, come on, they're not going to go through with this.
Yeah. So throughout the story, there's a mysterious person trying to change history. This turns out to be Hal Jordan's Parallax. Um, though in another story, he did sacrifice himself to, I think it was this one. This is where he died, I think so. Because, let me find the issue here because I think it was this very story where they had him die and he got killed by Green Arrow.
Hmm.
Okay, so it was not in the story with somebody else.
Yeah,
Um,
I knew it was. It had to be Days of Judge. I knew it wasn't in this story.
Day Jenner was before was after this. He died sometime in between there.
Mm.
So let's see. Another JSA got killed off in this one. No, not that. So in the opening issue, they killed off Rapunzel, though he came back. Wally died, he came back. Time Trapper died, but he came back. Hawk became extinct. There was red suit. He was Monarch, but then they changed into this. I think died at the end of the story. I think he did die. He did, but then he came back. Jeff Johns brought him back in Blackest Night.
Okay.
Yeah, issue 2 is when they killed off Our Man, Al Pritt. He was the original Adam. And apparently during the course of the story, Cosmic Boy became new Time Trapper.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the case of Iron Man, he came back. Al Pritt stayed dead. Though he is back in the current continuity, but prior to Flashpoint, he stayed dead for a long time.
Mm.
Yeah. And the whole thing is they went on a boat and they kind of basically went to like doing Ragnarok, I think it was. And oh yeah, they also killed Dr. Midnight here. And this was the original Dr. Midnight. Now, prior to this, they had already killed off his successor, who was a woman, a black woman, who was Dr. Midnight. She was Dr. Midnight in the Infinity Incorporated. I think it was in Beth Chapel. They killed her off in the Eclipse book. She's since been revived in the Jeff Johns Justice Society America of the New Golden Age stuff, where she does remember she actually did die, but she has this. I think she has a version of something introduced in Task Force Z, known as the Lazarus formula in her body to keep her alive. But she does remember the fact she did die, and then they kill off. Well, have Batman, Booster Gold. They debut Jack Knight. Jack Knight, aka Starman, who later became the star of a very successful Starman series by James Robertson, which was amazing. Anybody ever find this book? Check it out. The book is amazing. Probably by far, if ever any book from the 90s has not Batman Wonder Woman, it is by far one of the best titles released in 1990. It's not one of their titles. I would say just up there, I would throw up there Salmon Mystery Theater and Power Shazam. I would definitely throw those two titles up there. Would you agree?
I agree. I agree. Very solid run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think in the case, I know Starman, that's all I collected. Um, Power Shazam, I think like there's a couple trades for it, then they stop for some random reason. DC does it at times for these trade paperbacks. They don't finish. And by the end of this, basically, because Hal was trying to alter history with the story, but he failed. Well, not fully. Well, he did kind of fail. So now the reason why they retconned year two was because this was the story that Batman teamed up with Joe Chill.
Mm.
Yeah, Joe Chill, the man who murdered his parents.
I could see why they want to remove that.
Yeah. Let's see if we can find it here because there is a list of changes they made. I know that was retcon. I know that for sure. Let's see.
Wait, didn't Power Girl have a baby during the story? Am I confusing this
Oh
with
yeah, she did. Which after the Justice League America title wrapped up, they completely forgot about this baby.
Mm. I think it was a boy, but I can't remember.
Yes. But at least it was better circumstances than what happened with Miss Marvel in the 80s.
That is true.
Yeah.
The less said about Avengers 200, the better.
Yeah, which I know that Jim Shooter has long apologized for it. Kira in the black suit. The original Supergirl was dead during this period of time. They did bring her back in the 2000s.
Yeah, this was post Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, Kara was shelved for about a good 25 years by the time she got brought back.
Well, and the reason for it was because um, there was editorial. The reason I've heard was because there was editorial mandate that, well, the should have been all Kryptonians once they taken off the board and closed suit pets because there was way too many Kryptonians on the board. They want to just wipe the slate clean. Though they slowly integrate back in, but at that point there was like way too many.
Yeah, because yeah, that's fair. But I think wait, did Barry no, that was from Art Waysman. That was Eobard posing as him. Yeah, but Barry was shelved up until 2009. So I want to say it was a similar amount of time. They were equally shelved for about 25 years, but I think Barry was shelved for a little bit longer.
Yeah. So here's the big things they introduced afterward, aside from the Justice Society to get killed off. They rebooted the League of Superheroes with the post CR version, which that lasted for almost 10 years before they brought back they brought in the 3-movie version and they brought back the original one. They introduced the concept of floating timeline because no more real time. They There was a mess involving Hawkman after this. Batman's back Urban Legend. Uh, Guy Gardner. Oh boy, something that they have. I think they mentioned a couple times since the Flash reboot happened. They retconned the fact that Guy Gardner is an alien.
That is true. Huh, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, they did establish a lore that Guy Gardner was an alien descendant.
Yeah, and he body can turn into a weapon.
Yeah, that led to his Warrior series.
Yep. Well, original book was called Guy Gardner, and then I think it was issue 17. It was renamed to Guy Gardner Warrior. Gerald Jones did the opening 10 issues of the book. Chuck Dixon did it for about 10 issues, then he left. Um, he mentioned on his podcast the reason why he left the series was because the artist he was working with at that point, which he was really interested in working with, was removed from the title, and he was not informed of this particular development. So he recommended the guy who actually did the book for the remainder of the series because he recommended because he was a big Guy Gardner fan. And the book became very weird under this writer because they recommended this clone brother of Guy Gardner named Joe Gardner, who popped up in Chuck Dixon's Birds of Prey. It was an odd book. And there was also one point Guy Gardner went on a rampage, so let's have Hawkman, just let's basically have like a bunch of titles randomly tie into to Guy Gardner's book, including an annual.
Mm.
Yeah. Um. Let's see. Yeah. The whole thing of Matrix and Linda. So Matrix, despite people thinking that Peter David created her, he did not. That was John Byrne. Completely all John Byrne. Linda Danvers, the whole thing with that was Peter David. He created that for his very popular Supergirl series, which it's another one of those books that DC is not finished collecting, though they did release the DC Finance collecting so many issues, but not all of it.
Mm.
Yeah. Hmm. All in all, Zero was a good story. Nothing really bad about this one.
No, I
Nothing
would say
controversial with this one either.
no. It's very much a product of its time, and it still has some impact. Well, a lot of its misgivings were later redeemed, along with Hal Jordan later on.
Yeah, and some of the retcons introduced in the story, this is undone with Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, so it's more lost media at this point than anything.
Yeah. Though DC has collected this book many times. As a matter of fact, you can even find it in DC's. You can find it in DC's Finest. Where they collect the whole thing, I think like in 2 volumes.
Hmm.
Let's see. So these are trades you can find on the Zero that's not in DC's Finest book. You have Zero, the main book, which collects the main series plus the tie-ins and showcase. There's Batman Zero Hour, which collects all the Bat books. Justice League Zero Hour, Superman Zero Hour. There's Omnibus, and of course there's the DC Finest books, which excuse me. So if you think about it, like the only major thing that changed after this was Legion of Superheroes and some other stuff here and there, but I think the Legion was probably the most effective at the story.
Hmm.
Well, they did also introduce the character Triumph, where he was retconned to be a founding member of the Justice League. And then after he was part of the first mission, everybody completely forgot about him. And he's a Mark Waid creation,
How about that?
which he never joined the team of Justice League at that point. He was part of the Justice League task force, which that's what Priest basically did a lot of work to help with him. He put him in that book, gave him a mini series. Waid had pretty much nothing to do with him. There was a mistaken belief that Priest, that he's a Christopher Priest character because he wrote a lot of this stuff. Despite the fact he didn't create him, he was just told to write him. Which I don't get a chance to read anything by Christopher Priest. He generally puts out, if he's Jim Hauser or Christopher Priest, his books are always really good. He's never put out a bad book, from what I could tell. He's one of those old school writers still writing after all this time. Like he was recently doing, I think he did, I know he was with Vampirella recently. which he himself basically said the reason. Heard this from Joe Quesada. The reason why he changed into Christopher Priest because he got divorced and he wanted to become a preacher.
Mm.
He's a priest. That's the reason why for the change.
Wait, so he got remarried and he decided to rebrand himself?
No, he got divorced from
Oh,
his wife.
okay.
Apparently, he's an ordained Baptist minister.
Hmm.
But this is from Joe Quesada, of course. I've met Quesada. I've not met Christopher Priest at all. But if you have a chance to check out stuff, look at his Wikipedia page. You're like, wow, this guy wrote a lot of stuff. And like, oh, I mean, read this stuff. This stuff is actually really good. He's done practically a lot of major characters. Some of you wondering if he wrote Batman. He wrote a one-shot of Batman. He never wrote the Batman title. Never did.
Mm.
And probably his most popular title in like the last like 25 years is probably his Black Panther title, which he wrote almost the entire one except for like one issue, except for like two issues. But his most recent book he did was Superman Lost. That was the most recent book he actually did, that book.
I vaguely remember this title.
Yeah. One book he worked on for some weird reason. I don't know what the reason for this is. His Black Adam title. DC never finished collecting it. They collected the first half of the book and then never released the volume 2.
Mm.
I think Rob may have mentioned the reason why. I don't remember what the reason was why they never finished collecting this book. And this is a recent book. This is not like some book from 90s or 80s. This just came out like a few years ago. The last Marvel book he did was actually Volume 3 for U.S. Agent. They did this book as part of a tie-in, as a promotion piece for Falcon Winter Soldier. Because it popped up there, so why not give a mini-series? You know, Marvel likes doing this? When a character pops up in the show, let's release a paperback or quick mini-series to cash on this.
Mm.
DC doesn't do that very much. Like, here's an example. When Scott Lang had his first movie, they did an Ant-Man Scott Lang trade where they collected pretty much all of his early appearances. They made like his debut from Avengers 181, which was like 2 pages. Then he was at Marvel premiere and had all those pages from Iron Man that he appeared in. They did for Scarlet Witch as well, where they pretty much collect a lot of her early solo stuff. They did for Quicksilver, collect his very brief ongoing, which I don't mind Marvel doing that. DC doesn't do that. I can't think of a time based. The only time recently I think I did see DC do that was with Peacemaker, where they did a DC Finance book, where they collect like his Charlton run, which was very brief, which I own it. Which all it is just 2 issues of Fighting Five is brief ongoing, and that's it. That's all they collected. That was pretty much his entire Charlton run. Everything else in that book is like all his DC work. But I think that's it for both Zero and Armageddon 01.
Yeah. So a shorter video. Is there any other topic you want to discuss while we're here, Nick?
I can't think of anything right now.
Same. I'm just gonna go through a
I
quick
think the Comic Blaze is going to be House of M.
Yep, House of M.
I think on the extreme probably be Anime Blaze.
Anime Blaze. Okay. Have we decided on a topic? Oh,
Rise of Hero 2.
Rise of Shield Hero Season 2.
Yep.
I'll more than likely use the same thumbnail because usually when we do Anime Blaze, we just cover the entire series, or at least up to where it is in syndicate. The anime adaptation up to where it is in syndication.
Which we only had 3 more seasons left for this one. That's it.
Yeah, Rise of the Shield Hero was about 4 seasons. Fire
The,
Force,
the fifth season's coming, but it's not out yet.
it's not officially out yet. Okay, thank you. So we'll probably stop at season 4, assuming season 5 is not already released by the time we get to it.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about release for that one. I do know that Saga Tengifu is coming back next month.
Okay, so
After
all right.
over a decade of since season 1 came out.
Yep.
Which I'm wondering, like, what the heck took so long? Which
Your
is a
guess,
really good question.
in, indeed, your guess is as good as mine on that one.
Yep.
But all right. Our next topic will be House of M. Anime Blaze will be Rise of the Shield Hero season 2. Any upcoming videos or streams you got coming up, Nick? And where can people find you?
From my channel, Nick Lenz, I still got a few anime videos due tomorrow. Today, I pretty much went on break with my penultimate Sentai series, Zenkai Jir. After I catch up my stuff for tomorrow, I'm gonna go ahead and resume watching Kamen Rider Wizard.
That's a good season. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying Wizard. I thought it was really fun. That's one thing I noticed about Heisei Phase 2. It's like, I guess I'm only like in the start of it. It's really good starting off. Like, Double's good, O's is good, Forza is awesome, Wizard's amazing. It's like Phase 2 tends to be a little more good than, let's say, Phase 1. Though Phase 1 has some good stuff too. Kuga, Agato, Ryoki, I'm on 5s. I'm on break right now with that one, but at least there are 5s. Because it's kind of weird going with the way the show visually looked from 5s to Wizard, because Wizard looks kind of like how they shoot nowadays, but it's like one thing I know is about 5s. It's like they use the same camera stuff they use for Time Ranger at this point. And the show came back in 03. Well, Sentai was not using these cameras because they were basically moving on perfectly fine. You use different style cameras. This one just looked the same. It's almost like they want to make it too connected, per se.
Sorry, I had to adjust something.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. Like, it's very much a product of its time. I see what you mean.
Yeah. But at least in the case of SPD and Dialthon, there was a reason why they were shot like that. These, I have no idea why, because I've not met anyone who was on Kamen Rider.
And
The only
Mystery,
Raider I've seen in person is Black. I never met him, though, but I did kind of see him. He was at Rangers Out last year.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I wish I met him. I did briefly talk to Giga Pink.
Nice.
Which, no denying, woman looks really good for her age, just because she's in her early 40s. Yep.
But as for me, you can find continue to support, like, comment, subscribe here on J Heat Blaze. Like I said, the Darth Maul review and the Mandalorian Grogu review, hopefully it will be out this week. I need to take the time to catch up my notes and rewatch Maul. But as of Mandalorian Grogu, I've already recently seen the film. I already have my thoughts fresh, so that should come out within the next few days. And of course, I usually do gaming playthroughs, movies, and videos, anime, manga, just whatever. And you're more like, comment, subscribe. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us tonight. I know it was late, but we appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, and we still need to schedule that review for Deadpool Wolverine.
Yes, I will. That is to be determined. Like, comment, and subscribe. Have a good night, everybody. Flame on.